Class 6. Subject Social Studies, History. Lesson Plan. Lesson 5 Kingdoms, Kings and Early Republic. Q1. How did men become rulers in the past? Answer. Some of the Rajas, rulers, were probably chosen by the Jana, the people. Around 3000 years ago, we find some changes taking place in the ways in which Rajas were chosen. Some men recognized as Rajas became rulers by performing very big sacrifices. Q2. Make a list of all those who would be present at the sacrifice. Answer. The Raja who wanted to perform the sacrifice. Specially trained priests. A charioteer, who was companion of the Raja, who desires to perform the sacrifice. Some relatives of the Raja, particularly his wives and sons. Other small Rajas, who were simply spectators. The ordinary people, the Vish or Vashyas, who brought gifts for the king. Q3. Write a short note on composition of the society of the later Vedic period. Answer. There were several different groups in society at this time: priests and warriors, farmers, herders, traders, craftspersons, laborers, fishing folk and forest people. Some priests and warriors were rich, as were some farmers and traders. Others, including many herders, craftspersons, laborers, fishing folk and hunters and gatherers, were poor. Question 4. Write a brief note on PGW or painted greyware. Plates and bowls are the most common vessels made out of painted greyware. These are extremely fine to touch, with a nice, smooth surface. Perhaps painted greywares were used on special occasion, for important people and to serve special types of food. Q5. What is Sangh? Ans. Sangh means organization or association. Q6. What was the source of income of Raja of Mahajanpadas? Ans. Taxes was the source of income of Raja of Mahajanpadas. Q7. What was the most important source of revenue to the state? Ans. Agriculture. Q8. What does the word Janpada mean? Ans. The word Janpada literally means the land where the Jana set its foot and settled down. Q9. What is Digha Nikaya? Ans. Digha Nikaya is a famous Buddhist book, which contains some of the speeches of the Buddha. These were written down about 2300 years ago. Q10. Why the rivers that flowed through Magadh were considered important? Ans. This was important for A. Transport, B. Water supplies, C. Making the land fertile. Q11. Who were the groups who could not participate in the assemblies of the Ganas? Ans. Women, Dasas and Kamakras could not participate in these assemblies. Q12. What does Varn mean? Ans. The priests divided people into 4 groups, called Varnas. According to them, each Varn had a different set of functions. Q13. Why Shudras were excluded from every ritual? Ans. Shudras were excluded from every ritual because according to priests contact with these groups was polluting. Q14. What is Bhaga? Ans. Taxes on crops were the most important. Usually, the tax was fixed at 1/6 of what was produced. This was known as Bhaga or a share. Q15. How some men came to be recognized as Rajas? Ans. Some men by performing big sacrifices, like the Ashwamedha Yajna or horse sacrifice, came to be recognized as Rajas. Q16. Which two powerful rulers of Magad used all possible means to conquer other Janpadas? Ans. Magad had two very powerful rulers, Bimbisra and Ajatasattu, who used all possible means to conquer other Janpadas. Q17. Which category of people was excluded from many rituals in the later Vedic period? Ans. Some people such as those who were regarded as Shudras by the priests were excluded from many rituals. Q18. When was the first democratic government formed? Ans. Around 2500 years ago, the people of Athens set up a form of government, which was called a democracy, which lasted for about 200 years. Q19. How were forests useful for the people of Magad? Ans. Parts of Magad were forested. Elephants, which lived in the forest, could be captured and trained for the army. Forests also provided wood for building houses, carts and chariots. Q20. What were the two major changes that took place in agriculture during the later Vedic period? Ans. There were two major changes in agriculture around this time. One was the growing use of iron plowshares. Second, people began transplanting paddy. Q21. When Alexander wanted to march further eastwards, his soldiers refused. Why? Ans. Alexander wanted to march further eastwards, but his soldiers refused because they were scared, as they had heard that the rulers of India had vast armies of foot soldiers, chariots and elephants. Q22. Why was an iron plough considered better than that of wood? Ans. Iron plough considered better than that of wood because iron is hard and strong than wood and thus heavy. Clayey soil could be turned over better than with a wooden plowshare. Q23. Why books such as Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharvaveda, as well as other books are often called later Vedic? Ans. These books are often called later Vedic, because they were composed after the Rigveda. These were composed by priests, and described how rituals were to be performed. They also contained rules about society. Q24. Discuss the four Varnas of the later Vedic period. Answer. The four Varnas. The priests divided people of the ancient India, of later Vedic age, into four groups, called Varnas. According to them, each Varna had a different set of functions to perform. 1. The Brahmins. The first Varna was that of the Brahman. Brahmins were expected to study and teach the Vedas, perform sacrifices and receive gifts. 2. The Kshatriyas. In the second place were the rulers, also known as Kshatriyas. They were expected to fight battles and protect people. He Vish or the Vashyas. Third were the Vish or the Vashyas. They were expected to be farmers, herders and traders. Both the Kshatriyas and the Vashyas could also perform sacrifices. 4. The Shudras. Last were the Shudras, who had to serve the other three groups and could not perform any rituals. Generally, women were also grouped with the Shudras. Both women and Shudras were not allowed to study the Vedas.